I'm gonna start by showing you my kitchen first, real quick, starting from the back. Here I have all the ingredients, garnishes, ready to be cut, the plates, bowls with water, avocado oil, and the little equipment, pots for cooking, and the basket for the noodles. I have here a big bowl for the noodles. I have the tonkotsu soup I already made. I have the sauce, the tare for the ramen. It's already been weighed. And the flour mixture, the kansui mix and all-purpose flour. And that's the pasta maker here, the pasta machine. Yes.
So and what's the sauce? Soy sauce and
garlic.
Garlic, okay.
Yes, soy sauce, a bit of mirin, a bit of shiitake, kombu, all mixed and cooked together and strained. And then the grated garlic is added afterwards. So it's slightly cooked, but not fully, so that you preserve the flavor when you mix it with the broth.
Okay.
So this, I had to pre-make it because again, it's another big process or like a lot of ingredients. Very simple, but I made that. I already typed it in. I just have to send it to you later if you are interested in the recipes, and I'll be doing that. So today I'll be starting with the noodles. I'll make the noodles. I'll be showing you the first step and the last step. And after, I'll slice the onions, portion all the garnishes, and then cook the noodles, plate it, and then we're going to go back to my office, and we'll be showing you how I made the pork broth soup. So it's going to be tonkotsu ramen today.
Yay!
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of people really like tonkotsu ramen.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Maybe like 40% of the people ask for tonkotsu, and it's my first time actually filming. No, second time filming about tonkotsu soup. But last time we did it with like a whole pig head.
Wow.
And it was in a professional kitchen, but at home today we're using a bit smaller bones. But it was very flavorful, like as flavorful as those organic pig heads. But
okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to start with the noodles.
Great.
Oh, okay. Sorry, no, I had to start with the leek oil because it takes a couple minutes to cook. So this is organic leek. It's going to be we call it a charred leek oil.
So you're going to char it?
Yeah, we're going to cook it in the oil and make it caramelized.
Oh.
Usually in Japanese, we call it negiabura. Negiabura. Goes really well with pretty much any kind of soup or broth. Just dice it nice and neat.
And what kind of oil do you cook it in?
Avocado oil.
Avocado oil, okay.
Yep.
How come? Like why do you choose avocado oil?
I like avocado oil because it doesn't have a strong flavor as olive oil do. And it's really good for cooking. The smoking point is very high, so when you cook it, it doesn't oxidize, and the flavor is simply just nice, and they're healthy too.
Okay.
Yeah. So the diced leek in a pot.
Okay.
I usually don't weigh this because you just have to have some leek covered in oil. but not too freely, just enough to cover like this.
Okay.
Okay, and in the beginning, I'm going to put this at pretty high heat until it comes to boil.
Okay.
And
how,
this needs.
Yeah. How long do you cook it for? So you're probably getting there.
In a total of usually like 20 minutes.
Okay.
So once it starts to boil, I turn it down and then just wait until it caramelizes golden brown. And it's constantly mixing like this so it doesn't burn.
Can you do the same thing with garlic? Like if you sliced garlic, you can.
Yeah, you can. But when you do with garlic, you have to be careful because it burns faster. So if you're doing it with garlic, it's better to cook the oil first and make it hot, and then put the chopped garlic on top. So the garlic would float on the surface and won't stick on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we're going to do this and the green onions.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so while this is cooking, we'll start the noodles. This is 210 grams of all-purpose flour. So this is going to go through the sieve. Like this. I do this because I wanted to separate the chunks and also to aerate the flour.
Do you always use all-purpose, or can you use like bread flour? Or
for noodles, I always use all-purpose because sometimes the bread flour will have too strong of a gluten, becomes too springy. And this is the alkaline water mixture. It's a mixture of water, baking soda, and salt, sea salt, mixed together.
Okay.
I mean, you boil the water first, and then you mix with the baking soda and salt. That way, the alkaline level goes up. Apparently, baking soda is a bit too weak for ramen noodles, but when you can't find kansi, which is a way stronger alkaline, you need to cook the baking soda in order to make the alkaline level higher. Okay, so the leek oil is boiling, so I'm gonna turn it down.
Hey, hi, Chilla.
Hey.
You have a question?
Yeah. Will the recipe for the kansui mix will be available? Thanks.
The recipe for the kansui is 90 grams of boiling water and 2 grams of baking soda, 1 gram of sea salt. So you take like a glass cup and put salt and baking soda, and then you pour boiling water, and you leave it until it cools down. So this has been chilled in the fridge, so it's ready to go. So I'm slowly going to be folding this kansui mix into the flour.
Okay.
So the point here is to do little by little. That way it doesn't form bigger chunks. You want to distribute the water evenly. And it's totally fine to see these crumbs. Because when after you get to see all the crumbs, you're going to gather it together, and then that becomes rolled into sheets. And at this point, you don't want to overwork it because you don't want to damage the gluten. And here I'm just taking off what's up on the bottom.
So the less water there is, the more al dente it is.
Yes, the less the water, it becomes really hard on the texture, but it also becomes really hard to make because unless you have like a really good machine that helps you knead all the dough and do everything for you, if you're doing everything by hand, it's a lot easier to make it not too dry. But in general, ramen noodles have sometimes even less than 30% hydration.
Okay.
But that is very hard to do by hand. This one has over 40% hydration.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to work with.
Yeah, it's so much easier. So once you see all these crumbles, try to break it down, make sure it's even, and then put it into a bag. This. And then we'll just leave it in room temperature like this for 2 hours.
Okay.
And the next step for this is we put this thing, we squeeze the air out, and I usually put this in a paper bag so that I can step on it to make it flat. There's pretty much no other way to make this flat because the dough is really dry and you want to make it thin. And that's how people do for udon noodles usually too, if they don't have like industrial machine.
Yeah, you step on it like all the kids out and step on the dough.
Yeah. But the point here is you don't want to do the stepping part for too long, otherwise you'll again damage the gluten, and once it's damaged, it's not going to come back. You have to really be gentle. And then after the stepping part, I usually leave it in room temperature for another 2 hours. And then I take the pasta machine and roll it into sheets, which I have already done this morning. And it looks like this.
Wow, so nice.
So here I have 2 sheets going to be going into the pasta cutter.
And are you just dusting with the same flour or something else?
Same flour.
Okay.
Yep.
It's the fun part.
This, like, until you get this point, it's a long way, but here is the fun part. Just a piece of parchment paper so that it absorbs any extra moisture. This is an Imperia pasta maker. Every time you cut this ramen, the side pieces would always be like furry or damaged. Just leave those there and not catch it. And then go like this. Here we have the noodles. You always have to dust it with more flour, otherwise they'll stick.
Okay, so question
Yep.
from Lillian. After you stomp on the dough, do you roll it? And how do you get it so even and flat?
Oh, I use the pasta maker without the blade. Just
Okay.
just this part of the roller. This is the cutter that I'm using right now, and this is the roller.
Okay.
Yeah, once it's stepped on, you have it flat, and then you just go from the thickest setting. You roll it one level thinner. You roll it, and then you fold it just like regular pasta. You do a couple of folds, roll it again, another fold, turn it 90 degrees, fold it, and that's how this is done.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. From your own experience, what would you say is the part that you messed up the most often?
Making the dough part, like before I had a hard time figuring out the perfect solution, is the ratio between the water and flour, and also like how to not spend so much time doing it. So like the balance between like the perfect quality versus the convenience, and I think I found the great balance right now, which is the recipe one that I'm doing today. So, but once you have that ratio, it's kind of hard to fail now because you know how it's going to go when you change the ratio. And yeah.
So in Whitehorse, it's pretty dry. So would you say like in dry climate, we'll need more water?
Oh, yeah. That happens often. In some, it really depends on the weather too. The summer and winter, you have to change it. And yeah, in the Yukon, I can imagine when it's really dry, you just have to put some water. But like when you add water, it has to be at the point where I was showing you how to mix the water and the flour together. It has to be done at that point. You can't step on it and then add more water. It's gonna be weird.
Right.
Yeah, that might be the hardest point, or the most parts that I failed. You can't really go back when it's not right. Okay.
Oh, I have a question. So if we wanted to make wrinkled ramen, like noodles.
Oh yeah.
Chijiremen, what do you do?
Oh, chijiremen is fun. Chijiremen at this point, like before you cook, like I can try one later, but at this point you just put it on a table like this, and some would do like make it wrinkle like this. I'm not really good at this. I don't often do it. You squish it like this.
Okay.
And then it gets wrinkled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, somebody can show me a better way. You can go pretty hard on it and it'll be fine as long as the recipe is right and have enough flours. That's it.
So how do you choose between straight noodles and wrinkled noodles? Does it depend on the kind of broth, or?
Yeah, depends on the broth. but I like wavy noodles when the soup is rather thinner, or thick noodles. I like it wrinkled.
Oh, okay.
So the wheat oil, it's a little bit uneven, but you don't want to cook it further because it'll still keep cooking with the residual heat. So I already took it off.
I can almost smell it from through the screen. So for a question about the dough, the roller pasta machine, what's the lowest setting you go to when you flatten the dough through the pasta maker?
I go to the second thinnest.
Okay.
When I roll it.
Okay.
I start from the thickest and then end it at the second thinnest, because the thinnest setting will be a bit too thin unless you're trying to make a Hakata style tonkotsu.
Okay.
Super thin noodles.
Yeah. So people who weren't here when we started right at the beginning, the recipe will be shared after. So you don't have to take notes while you watch this video, just enjoy the live cooking.
Yep. Or you can just I can just explain right now too.
Sure.
If you like. So the soy sauce mixture that I'll be using is 320 grams of soy sauce, 2 grams of kombu, 15 grams of sea salt, 20 grams of mirin, 40 grams of water, and 1 piece of dried shiitake, and 25 grams of grated garlic. So that is the soy sauce mixture. And the pork broth, I will explain later and send it to you as well, because it's really, really complicated. And I also made the video for each steps that I done.
Right. And so for the noodles, can you tell us again, like how many grams of flour and for how many people it's for?
Yes, this is for that recipe was for 2 people, 2 portions, 210 grams of all-purpose flour and 90 grams of water, 2 grams of baking soda, and 1 gram of sea salt. That is the mixture.
Okay. Do you have any specific brand of soy sauce that you recommend for the tare, the shoyu tare?
Shoyu tare, I normally use kikoman. I sometimes use usukuchi soy sauce, which is a different type of soy sauce that is lighter in color, but a little bit higher in salt.
Right.
But I don't use it for the mixture. I use it straight up usukuchi to add the soy flavor to a clear broth. Usually, when you have like a shio ramen, I do I don't use this garlic soy. I use more like a lighter salt concentrate, and then I add a little bit of usukuchi soy sauce. So those two are the soy sauce I use.
Okay.
For ramen. Okay. So today the garnishes will be the green onions. This is, I used bok choy. Bok choy is the stem part.
Okay.
I sliced it and blanched it for about 5 seconds, just to make the base for the chashus, so they don't sink in the bottom when you plate it.
Is it flavored? Or just no? Okay.
No, just a quick blanch in hot water, boiling water.
Mhm.
And these are we call it a perfect noodles. It's been cooked for 7.5 minutes and peeled and brined in 2% salt water for 1 day.
Okay.
This is the chashu, which I already made, but this is going to be in the video as well. You'll see it later. It's being cooked. It's a pork cheek, and it's being cooked for 2 hours and seasoned with 1% salt and crushed black pepper. So it's going to cut this in half. This.
Oh, looks so good.
It's fully cooked and it's really, really tender. It's at this point, it's kind of hard, but when it goes into the soup and warms up, it'll be perfect. And then the green onions. I like to make green onions curly. So cut it in half lengthwise, and then you can choose either to slice it like this way, or what I like to do is to use the knife and pull it like this.
Okay.
That way there's less damage on the cells and it'll curl up really nice.
I see.
It's kind of like shiraganigi, but using these thin green onions, scallions. Should be enough.
It's a really nice looking knife. Tell us about it a little bit.
Sorry about
A knife. Like
a knife,
kind of
right?
Knife? Yeah.
This one I have I got this in Japan, Misono.
Misono knife, yeah.
Misono. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. This is like a standard. There's a couple different grades in Misono you can choose from. I don't think this is any of the higher models, but I like this one the best because the blade is really thin. Other more expensive models have harder steels and they're thicker too, so it's hard to sharpen. And I'd rather have like a soft steel that's really easy to sharpen, and you have more control. Just simply more easier to handle it.
I see.
Yeah, this used to be a little bit longer, but I've been using it for years, and I have the saya, or the knife case, wooden knife case. It used to be more fit, but now it's like wiggles a little bit because of the size of the blade shrunk.
Wow. I didn't know that happens when you for a long time.
Yeah, so the green onions, I'm gonna leave it in the water.
Okay.
And mix it up a little. And wait till it curls up. And the perfect eggs. I have a piece of butcher knife wrapped in plastic.
Okay.
So when you cut the egg yolk won't stick to the knife. It works really well. like that.
It is.
And
looks perfect.
Yeah, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
This technique was invented by my wife, Aiko. And it's really easy to clean the knife. And when you have to cut lots of eggs like this, it's really annoying when the yolk sticks, but this is so perfect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think I'm ready to cook the noodles and plate it.
Okay.
Clear up the space.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm really excited. Yeah, somebody asked about hardness of water. Like, do you?
Oh yes.
Yeah, soft. Soft water, hard water. Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that we need to pay attention to when making the noodle?
It's I really miss the soft water of Japan because it's just simply better. It tastes better and there's less impurities. It's good for the tools too. It doesn't collect like weird calcium, and it just makes the machines keep longer, the tools keep longer.
Okay.
But you can have water softener in Canada,
Right.
and which I have seen a couple times, but a lot of people just use hard water.
Mm-hmm.
And I do really miss the water in Japan.
Yeah. Do you use distilled water at all?
I use filtered water, straight up filtered. So the onions are, you can wait a little longer, it might grow up more. But I think it's fine for now. So I'm just gonna strain this.
And that's the soup that you made yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's boiling. I have this water. It's just a regular water.
Mm-hmm.
When the soup is boiling, sometimes it splits and the fat would float on the surface. So when you put a little bit of water, it helps the soup to emulsify back.
Oh, okay.
Because when the soup is too fatty, it's not so good.
Mm-hmm. Just seeing that the strainer in the back there, and it's reminding me of home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I choose this basket where the bottom is flat so that it stands up in the pot.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I am ready to cook the noodles. You want to see the straight noodle or the curly noodles? You want to go
whichever you were planning to do in the beginning.
I was planning on doing the straight noodles, but
okay.
We can try the curly. Okay, let's make sure the water is boiling and the noodles loosened before it goes into the boiling water. That 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Yep.
That's actually longer than I thought.
Oh yeah? Oh, it really depends on the thickness of the noodles.
Right, yeah.
And once it goes into the water, you have to separate the noodles, otherwise they'll stick.
Do you salt the water, or is it just straight water?
It's straight water. Yep.
Okay.
Ready to garnish. Okay, so while we're cooking the noodles, I make sure the soup is boiling and the sauce is weighed. I usually do it like in a scale, but this one's already weighed out.
Okay. Chiladen, you had a question?
Yeah, I noticed that the water wasn't bubbling. Is it important for the boiling water to be a certain temperature or no?
Sorry, could you mind repeating the question?
I noticed that the water wasn't like fully bubbling. So is it important that
like
the water isn't too hot? Yeah.
Oh, it was actually not boiling like this hard, but it was boiling enough. And when you put when the flour gets mixed, it bubbles more because of the protein and gluten and stuff. As long as it's rolling, it's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. And the soup. Just make sure it's boiling. And today I'm putting 350 grams. So this is when the soup gets seasoned. There's no salt or anything in the tonkotsu broth itself.
Okay.
Yep. That's why there's salt in the soy sauce, the really, really salty concentrate, and then it gets diluted.
Right.
Yep, I've got 5 seconds left. Okay, just gotta quickly check the salt content. It's reading 1.3 or 3%, 1.3%.
Okay. That's like more on the
which
mild.
is it's normal. I think it's normal. Usually, a lot of ramen shops would do 1.3 or between 1.3 and 1.5. But 1.3 is pretty. It's salty enough. There's enough salt. So I grab the noodle like this, and then I hold on to it.
Oh.
After it goes into the soup, I still hold it like this. That way you can do this motion and plate it. Like you can show the noodles nicely.
Looks really neat. Neatly.
Yeah, when the soup is clear, you can see more and it's prettier. It's my first time doing it with the curly noodles too, but it's looking good, I think. This angle. Then I'm gonna first put these bok choy stems. A little bit more.
Nice.
Chashu.
Chashu.
The egg. That.
How do you for the eggs? How do you make it perfectly oval? Like someone had a question. Yeah, what's your trick so that the boiled egg is perfectly oval? And how do you remove the air bubbles at the bottom of the egg?
You can make like a small pinhole, like at the bottom of the egg, And while you're cooking it, you can mix the eggs. That way the egg yolk would stay in the center. It cooks evenly from the outside. And when it's rolling, it'll just, be centered. So this is the Leeko that we just made. And
looks good.
And here we have the Tonkotsu Ramen. Bon appetit.
Wow, bon appetit. I wish. Yeah, it's great. It looks really nice with the
Thanks.
with all the parts, all the components. Yeah.
We made a lot of this recipe at Iwashi Izakaya. And then we just kept developing, trying to make better soup, better sauces and garnishes. And here it's kind of like our standard. We've been, I think it's the first ramen that we made was this style, not with the pork cheek, but the similar style of the noodles and the garlic soy mixture. So it kind of brings us back when we see this.
Yeah.
Any questions at this point, or I can go back and we can start the soup section.
Does anyone have any questions? Not at the moment.
Okay, so please allow me to a couple seconds and I will be back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll prepare the video sharing.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, see you in a minute.
See you.
All right, so while we wait, does anyone have any comments you want to share? You can unmute yourself if you want.
He makes it look easy.
I know. It's true. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error and experimenting and lots of hours of practice. Okay, oh, Fumi-san, you had a question?
はい。冠水っていうのはホームメイドの冠水なんですか、あれは。
そうです。Yeah, the question is
お店で買う冠水だったら、この前も言ったみたいに、ちょっとお腹が痛くなるって言ってたでしょ。で、今日の冠水はだから自分で作った冠水だから大丈夫かしら。
どうなんでしょう。I'm not too sure about store-bought 冠水。We can ask Hachi after.
Amazon でも売ってるって書いてました。
But I think, so 冠水 is, I think 冠水 and baking soda water is not exactly the same, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, we can ask that question. Yeah, thank you.
はい、終わりです。
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of people like Tonkotsu Ramen. I think some other people like shoyu and shio and that, but tonkotsu was definitely the most popular one. Here. Maybe while we wait, I can share with you Hachi's pictures. Share screen. Okay. So this is his Instagram, and you can check it out after. So he's made a lot of colorful and beautiful looking ramen here.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm back.
Oh, okay. Okay, so thank you for that. Taiko-san had a question about kansui and
Kansui, yes.
yeah, baking soda water. So some people are allergic to kansui.
Okay.
And some people like they have sometimes get a stomach ache or whatnot. And just wondering if baking soda water would be okay for people who experience that.
Oh,
Do you know?
it's actually my first time hearing about allergic to kansui, but if it's something to do with the alkaline, I wouldn't recommend doing the baking soda because it's similar. But I'm not really sure about the scientific facts of.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that
Same kind of.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
How severe are you to kansui?
Oh,
she's muted.
はい。はい。ね、私も妹もダメですね。だからお店ではその中国から来た乾水とかってそういうの使うでしょ昔は。今はだからハチさんが作ったのはホームメイドみたいでしょはい。ベーキングソーダベーキングソーダお水だけでしょそれだったら大丈夫じゃないかなと思うんだけど、なんか中国から来る乾水は何かが入ってるっていうのを聞いたことがあるんですけど、アルカリがすごいっていうような聞いたことが。
maybe right. Yes. So I don't know, maybe there is a difference between store-bought kansui and homemade because of the alkaline level, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
試してみて、じゃあお知らせします。
Oh, you're gonna try.
I think when you put too much kansui, it's not good for anybody. So, but if you make it by yourself, you can control. So that might be more easier on your body if you just put a little bit.
Right.
じゃあ乾水の定義は何ですか？じゃあ、私は乾水っていうのはお店で買うものかと思ってたんです。You have to buy from the store.
Yeah, kansui it's basically a really strong alkaline.
Yeah.
And baking soda is not super strong. That's why you need to cook the baking soda in order to make it stronger. In my understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to use regular baking soda, might be okay. So more not.
Yeah, because you'll still get that ramen flavor in the noodles.
はい、ありました。ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few questions here. Sheldon?
It wasn't really a question, but from my limited understanding of what I've read online, store-bought kansui is a lot more concentrated. And if you're going to use it for your recipe, it's not the same ratio as if you use the homemade kansui.
Right.
You usually use a lot less if it's store-bought.
Yes, because you can. Yeah, because when you open that kansui powder, the smell is you already smells like ramen. It's like really strong. So if that's the case, you need to put a lot less than the recipe that I'm doing here, which is like 2 grams for 2 portions. That is not very much.
Right.
I mean that's a lot of, like if that was kansui, that's a lot of kansui, but I use baking soda, so it's not super strong.
Interesting. Okay, Ravi?
Hi, Hachi.
Hey, Ravi, how's it going?
Good. I'm super hungry. And I know it seems, I didn't know people would be from everywhere, but obviously they would be. For the recipe, I'm just wondering if in the follow-up, if you can include for any locals where you get certain items like the chashu, where you would recommend to go for certain ingredients. And if you can add the recipe afterwards, if it's not too much work.
Oh, if you want to buy chashu, you can go to Kametsuru. They recently opened. It's on St. Catherine.
Right. So if it's not too much trouble, could that be included in the recipe as well? Like where recommended places to go?
Yes, but I actually don't know where to get chashu. Like I always make it. I never bought chashu, so.
Ah, okay.
But if I find it, I'll send it to you.
Very cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, should we watch the soup making video now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let me know. Oh.
So there's an option to remove spotlight, or I'll just be here.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the first part that I'm blanching the bones. Okay, it's a little choppy, but so these are the tails, the pig tails, and also the pork ham bones. So these were blanched for 5 minutes in boiling water, and then the water discard. After that, you have you put those bones back into the pot, put fresh water, bring it to boil, and just keep skimming until the darker the scum stop coming out. It has to be boiling in order to take out the impurities. And after that stage, the white impurities would come out like this, and those are umami, and it's totally fine to just leave it there. And this is the chashu, or the pork cheek meat that I'm cooking. Just throw it in the pot, cook it for 2 hours, and it gets seasoned later. And while the soup is cooking, I always like to keep the lid on. That way you don't have to crank the heat, and it will be still boiling. Also, it helps not evaporate, like the water not evaporate. And this is after 2 hours. And I'm taking out, well, the white thing here in the middle is the pigtails that is starting to render. And I'm taking out the cheeks. I've got 6 pieces in there, and I am weighing them because I need to know how much salt I need to apply. So the 6 cheeks, they were a total of 461 grams, which means I'm gonna need 4.6 grams of salt to be sprinkled. So here I have the precision scale. I'm weighing out 4.6 grams. It's 4.5, which is fine. And then some fresh black pepper and the salt that I just weighed gets sprinkled evenly onto the cheek, the braised cheek. So this is when it gets seasoned. Like the cooking part, you just cook it with water until it tenderizes. So flip them, sprinkle salt and black pepper on both sides, and just leave it at room temperature for a couple of minutes until it's not super hot. And back to the soup. At this point, you can start breaking down the bones and fat. That way the fat would render faster, and you'll get the creamy or thick broth sooner. Like the more you mix, the sooner you achieve the texture. Also, you want to make some space because because you want to add the chicken carcasses. The chicken carcasses, these are also blanched for 5 minutes before it goes into the soup. So you can do it one shot, do the pork bones, do the chicken bones, discard the water, and then start with fresh water. Yeah, so all the chicken bones are in. I had some chicken wing tips, so I used those as well. And just keep mixing. The more you mix, the faster it renders and the faster it emulsifies, the soup emulsifies. You just have to make sure the stock is always boiling. And this is a piece of mackerel bone, smoked mackerel bones that I make. You only need that tiny piece for this whole 5-liter soup. The mackerel bone is, I use a wok in hickory chips to smoke it. Yeah, once the cheeks are cool, this plastic wrap, and you just keep them in the fridge until you need it. Make sure it's airtight. Back to the soup, you can see the mackerel. I am mixing it again. So the total cooking time for the soup was about 5 hours.
Wow.
And yeah, in the beginning, there was 3 hours before I put the chicken and the mackerel. And after adding the chicken carcasses, it's 2 hours. And then after that is the vegetables for 20 minutes. So almost like 5.5 hours, not including other prep. So it's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I'm shaking off the bone marrow that's stuck in the thigh, the ham bones. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I crack the ham bones in half with using a hammer, so that you can do this. Or you can just go to the butcher shop and ask them to cut it in half for you. It's a lot easier. And once all the bigger bones have been taken out, you mix it again, stir it. And yeah, so this is the mirepoix, onions, leek, ginger and garlic. Just throw them in. So at this point, it's been cooked for 5 hours total. And after this, you cook the vegetables for 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much vegetable flavor you want. Because ginger can take a long time to bring out the flavor. But you don't want to cook it for too long because you otherwise you'll get like a weird sweetness from the onions, which you don't really want in the ramen soup. And just keep mixing. Like I love watching this. It's kind of psychedelic. Just can do this forever. You make sure it smells good. And so I use the two chinois or strainer technique, the mesh one on the bottom and the pinhole one on the top. That way you can catch all the bigger pieces with the first one, and the smaller particles will be caught by the mesh, the mesh strainer. I'll be sending you this video too. Like I already uploaded on YouTube, so I just have to share it. But there's no caption or there's no explanation or anything, so that's why I'm here explaining. And yeah, so the first chinois, just empty it like that because we need to strain a little bit more. And that's the end of it. So what I'm doing next here is, like, once it's strained, I put back all these remainders back into the pot, and then I make a second stock out of fresh water and mix it with the initial tonkotsu soup.
So that's because you want to get all the flavors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also this initial soup, the first soup that's being strained right now, is a little bit too thick. And when you mix it with the second stock, it really balances out. Because the second stock will be like fully emulsified, like really creamy. And that helps the whole soup bind together. So this is the final product of the first stock, and you start the second stock, which only takes about 10 minutes to do, because you just need to put some water, enough to cover. It doesn't have to be covered, just have to less than equal parts with the water. It doesn't really matter. Just want to have like a thick mixture of pork, because when you put fresh water, you'll get all the flavors more out of the little remainders, which was impossible to do in the first, because the liquid was already emulsified and there was no room for it to melt out. So I'm like constantly mixing this thing for about 10 minutes, like boiling. And then when I strain it, the same way, double chinois. Yeah, when there's bigger bones at this point, it's really hard to strain. That's why I pick them up with the tongs before I start straining.
Right.
It just makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so this is the mixture of the first stock and the second stock.
Looks really creamy.
Yep, it's creamy, but it's not too thick. When you eat it, it's you just get the flavor, but not extremely greasy, like well balanced. I like the color too. Yeah, so that was the end. That was the whole process of the tonkotsu broth and the pork cheek chashu.
Do you reuse those leftovers that you strained, or is that just compost?
Just compost, because from the chicken wing tips, there's like those tiny bones, millions of them. You don't. It's kind of. I've tried, but no luck. Yeah, it just takes so long to deal with it.
Great. That's really great. So for people who are vegetarian or vegan, don't use any meat, what's the process for, or what kind of soup do you make for vegetarian or vegan soup, and what's the process for that?
Right. We've been making a lot of vegetable broth, which is a clear soup made of lots of napa cabbage or hakusai, onions, tomatoes, coriander, just a bunch of vegetables, and cook it for about 20 minutes and strain it. Just make sure it's clear, because vegetables are so delicate and you don't want to cook it for too long. And once that's done, you can still use the same garlic soy sauce that we used here today, and mix it with the broth, and you'll have the vegetable ramen. we've been serving this at restaurants, and it was pretty popular.
So how do you get the umami with vegetables?
It's mostly from like a bit from every vegetables. Like there's no like one ingredient that stands out. You have to have like as many different kinds of vegetables as possible, and to extract all the umamis and flavors and combine it together. A lot of kombu and tomato. Kombu and tomato really help, but tomato, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? What is the recommended heat level during 6 hours of this process of making soup?
Right. So in the beginning, you want to bring it to boil fast to skim off the scums. So it's high heat. In the first 30 minutes or so, it's going to be high heat because you're going to have to be watching it staying there anyways. But once you finish skimming, you can turn it down lower to low heat and cover it. And at that point, you won't have to be there watching. You can do something else. And there's very little chance of burning it. But you have to, the point is you have to, if you're there, you can turn it higher. If you're not, you have to turn it lower. And you just have to go back and forth, because when you're trying to mix it and emulsifying, the heat has to be high, otherwise it won't boil. When you mix, when you stir, you have the evaporation, and you're also like putting new air, which brings down the temperature, so the heat has to be higher.
Okay. And somebody was asking if somen could be a good substitute for ramen noodles.
That's an interesting question. I never thought of it, but if there's no kansi or anything alkaline in somen. So if you want to make somen noodles taste like ramen, you might want to add baking soda in the blanching water, or yeah, it's pretty much the only way I can think of. Also, there's a lot of salt in somen noodles, so you might not want your soup too salty. Kind of have to experiment it.
Yeah, I can see how it could work because it's really thin, so it might work with different kinds of soup.
And the texture will be a bit softer, because when you put it in the hot soup, the somen noodles will be soggy very quick.
Right. And have you made tofu chashu?
Tofu chashu, I thought about it. I never made it, but this was an interesting question for me, because it made me want to make one. And and I plan to make one using shiokoji. I think I can cook the tofu, like boil it for about 10 minutes to make sure the tofu solidifies. And while it's still hot, I would put a weight on to take the water out. And then once it's cold, I would slice it thin into like a chashu shape or chashu size. And I would brush some shiokoji puree, which I always have at home. And then you can just grill it in the oven, and it'll probably caramelize well. And since you already pressed the tofu, you'll have that sort of chewy texture, and the shiokoji would have all the flavor, like caramelized. I think it'll make a really nice vegan chashu.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. How about, it's summer now, do you make a lot of tsukemen and hiyashi chuka these days?
I don't make a lot, but I made one last week, hiyashi chuka. I plan to post it on Tuesday on my Instagram. But hiyashi chuka, I like making it because it's so salady. Like you can put lots of vegetables, and you know, in summer you have lots of vegetables from the market, local, like amazing local ingredients. That converts to hiyashi chuka so well to us. Yeah.
And for this soup, tonkotsu soup, somebody was asking, why do certain ramen shops boil their bones over 3 days or a week?
Sorry, why do
certain ramen shops boil their bones for over 3 days or a week or so? Like, does it make a difference if you boil longer and longer?
Right. I would not want to try that, but I don't know what the point is for doing it, because after a certain point, the bones will no longer look like bones, and they will just, you know, be like powder. So at that point, when you keep cooking, it will be really easy to burn the bottom. And I don't know, if I were to do that, I would imagine like having like a gigantic pot of water with like a whole pig or something. Like I don't really know what the concept is, or what type of bones they're using. And yeah, I would love to learn if you whoever's asking, if you know the details, I would love to know.
Yeah, if you were using a pig head or something, how long would you cook that for?
We were doing it overnight. So at night, we would put it on the stove. And the next morning, you start mixing and crank the heat, add other ingredients, and strain it in the afternoon. So that was like 15 hours.
Okay. Wow. Okay, Fumi-san, you had a question?
So I use, when hiyashi chuka, I use angel hair, fresh angel pasta, and then do you put baking soda?
Yep.
How much baking soda do you add?
400
grams.
No, I think I was putting like 2 or 3 tablespoons for a pot of water to blanch.
How much noodles?
For like 2 portions of noodles, like
just 200 grams.
Yes, I remember not putting too much because when I did, I just didn't like the smell while it's cooking. So I try not putting too much.
Yeah, I never thought. I said 1 teaspoon. That's what I thought.
Yeah, maybe you might want to put more than 1 teaspoon, but
okay.
Does it depend on whether you're using fresh like pasta? If you were to buy some pasta and not make yourself, like if you bought like a fresh noodles, you would put maybe less baking soda compared to when you're using dry pasta. Does it? I don't know.
I might put a little bit more when I use fresh pasta because the cooking time is shorter.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
2 minutes or 3 minutes. So yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I might want to try doing it again. because I hear it a lot, like people not being able to, not having access to fresh ramen noodles, but they still want to eat it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Oh, go ahead. Tsujishio-san, go ahead.
ハチさん、お疲れ様です。
お疲れ様です。
ストレーナーで、
はい。
豚骨とかをこしたときに、
はい。
その骨の部分、ストレーナーに残った部分をこう、棒で押してね、エキスを出したりとか、そういうことはアクとか出るんですかね、すると。
いや、潰してました、僕は。だけど、
そうなの。
はい。で、潰すのはめんどくさいっていうのと、あと代わりに2番を取ってしまえば、まあ割と出てくるのと、あとはまあ潰すとしたらボウルに1回移して、それでボウルの上にお皿とかをこう置いて、それでなんか潰したりとかしてた時期もあります。
僕、昔バイトで厨房入ってた時に、潰し係やったんですよ。野菜。それを思い出して、大変やなと思いつつね。
あれ結構大変です。あれ傷むんですよね、そのシノワとかが。なんか
そうなのね。
ずっとやってると曲がってきちゃったり。
そうかそうか。ついつい思い出して。
なんか嬉しいですね。ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
The question, yeah, do you want to repeat just a bit of that?
So, yeah. So I was asked if I normally squeeze out the juice from the remainder after I strained the pork broth, and I used to do it, but now I don't because it's simply a lot of work, and when you do so, it damages the shinoa because you're putting so much pressure in like that little hook that holds on. And also when I do instead of pushing it, squeezing it out, I do the second stock because that way you can get the most out of the bones without putting too much pressure on your tools and on your palms, and also it's really efficient because no matter how you squeeze it, you won't be able to squeeze everything out. But if you boil it again, you'll pretty much get a lot of most of it. And if I were to do so though, like I would take the remainders from the chinois into a wider bowl and put like a smaller plate on top and squeeze it and put it through that liquid to the chinois. That way I can squeeze all the juice out if I wanted to, but I think it's a bit too much work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the session today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Keiko.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll send out the recipe and the video, the soup making video, and then this recording.
Yep.
Yeah, to you later viewing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So
hope to hear from you. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on my Instagram or my email, whatever you're comfortable with. I would be happy to answer it. And I usually just give out any of my recipes. So if you want to know how I make any of my ramen pictures on my Instagram, you can just ask me and I'll send it to you. Because I don't have all the recipes typed in, I have it like written in my notebook, like handwritten. It's kind of not very practical for sharing yet, so it's better for me to just personally send it to you.
Great. That's great. Yeah, you can try it at home. Okay, thank you everyone for coming today.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Yeah, if you have
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Misono.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye. Have a nice Sunday night.
Bye.
Bye bye.